Welcome to Iron Will. This channel exists for one reason: to teach you how to stand back up when the world tries to knock you down. We don't sell quick fixes or feel-good slogans. We teach discipline, repair, and relentless return, the quiet work done in the small hours. If you're ready to stop avoiding discomfort and start using pain as a map, then this is where you begin. Let's go. Before dawn, he tied his boots and promised himself he would not break today. The strap cut into his knuckle. The fabric smelled of sweat and dust. It was a small pain, the kind most people ignore. He learned long ago not to ignore those signals. He grew up with little, a house that leaked in the rain, a mother who worked nights and came home softer in the mornings, and a father who left footprints that washed away. As a boy, he hauled bricks for neighbors, chopped wood until his palms throbbed, and ran home at dusk because work still waited. He didn't lift weights for vanity. He lifted them because strength was practical. Strength kept the lights on. Literally and figuratively, school mocked him for being too thin, too quiet, too ordinary. The taunts collected like stones in his pocket. He used those stones to build his first rules: finish what you start, show up when it's hard, and make your promise to yourself small enough that your tired self could keep it. Those rules would follow him into uniform. Boot camp was simple cruelty reframed as training. Others collapsed on the field and swore they were done. He heard the words and kept moving. One more step, he whispered to himself during runs. One more step became two, became the last yard when everyone else surrendered. They graduated him not because he was the fastest, but because he had learned how to return when everything inside said stop on his first deployment. The world was harsher than any drill. He pressed like a hand on the back of the neck, and nights carried sounds that never settled: the distant rattle of trucks, the sharp staccato of gunfire, the low moan of generators. Hunger was a quiet, gnawing companion. Sleep came in fragments, each broken interval a small test of resilience. The ambush came on an ordinary patrol. One moment the column moved through scrub and dust. The next the air cracked with explosions. Smoke took the sky. He felt a violent blow across his shoulder and tasted cover. For a heartbeat, fear whispered to run, to hide, to find any excuse that would put distance between him and the chaos. He did not run. He did the thing he had practiced in the small hours. He named what was happening. He took a breath. And he did the next correct thing. He dragged a man who had been hit into cover. He shouted clear, short commands. He counted rounds and checked the wounded. Discipline won the day because habit and training beat panic. When the smoke cleared and the medics moved in, the doctor said he'd need weeks to heal. He walked back to the line in days. That wasn't bravado. It was a line in the ledger he had been building, a promise kept today. Another small return on a debt paid to himself yesterday. Back at base, the other soldiers watched him the way people watch someone who seems to bend but never break. They began to ask simple questions. How do you do it? He answered with small, stubborn truths. I don't pretend it doesn't hurt. I just make sure I fix one thing every day. He carried a pocket notebook with that purpose: one line, one small action. Fix the strap, clean the filter, check the map. Tiny acts that accumulated into trust. Pain taught him to look for information. A tendon that tightened after a long march told him to change his gait. A sleepless night told him to schedule a nap the next day. A letter that broke his heart taught him to speak sooner, not later. He stopped worshiping pain as punishment and began to study it like data. Every ache was a clue. Every failure a map. The question stopped being why me and became, what is this showing me? Loss followed him. He buried friends. He learned the sonorous hollow of a bed where another man used to sleep. The nights after losses were the worst, not because of the noise, but because of the silence. He learned to carry grief like a tool, named, honored, and put to work. He wrote letters he never sent. He read them, then folded them into his notebook and turned them into actions. Check in with families, tighten safety protocols, teach a new recruit how to do a tourniquet. Grief became a curriculum for care. He taught younger soldiers that toughness is not show. Toughness is repair. He taught them to notice the small fails, a loose bolt, a missed sleep, a skipped meal, and to remedy them quickly. We don't let small things become big things, he would say. The unique culture shifted. They stopped romanticizing heroics and began practicing maintenance. They checked each other's gear not to find fault, but to build trust. Those routines followed him home like a second skin. Civilian life surprised him. The city felt louder and emptier at once. Jobs were steady but small. People spoke of promotions like they were maps to happiness. He had different maps now. He wrote down habits he could keep. Run at dawn, read for 20 minutes, call one friend per week. Healing was not dramatic. It was consistent. One step, one sentence, one small fix. At a community center, he began to teach. He told a group of veterans and civilians the story of the ambush not for drama, but to show one thing, how a ledger of small repairs keeps you standing. He passed his pocket notebook round. A woman who lost a job cried and then wrote her own single action, applied to one position, today. A young man with tremors wrote, do 3 mobility drills each morning. They left with small commitments, not slogans. He married, not because he felt whole, but because he believed in partnership as mutual repair. Marriage was a new battlefield of habits. Listening before reacting, asking one question before making a decision. Dropping the phone and being present for 10 minutes. Those tiny rituals you could argue saved as many days as any casualty protocol. He learned that repair works in every arena. The ledger in his notebook grew heavy with dates and small wins. A tightened bolt, a calm phone call. A morning run logged in slanted ink. Months became years and the ledger became proof. When critics praised his toughness, it annoyed him. He didn't want praise for survival. He wanted tools for others. So he taught quietly. He handed out notebooks and gave people one prompt. What is the smallest thing you can do today? That will make tomorrow easier. When the war's headlines faded, the harder work began, staying steady in peace. The same man who had lugged wounded comrades now learned to lug groceries and deadlines. The impulse to be silent about pain was still strong, but he had learned to replace silence with maps. He started a small class in the community hall, repair and return. It was practical, not pious. He taught how to log pain and response, how to test a small practice for 7 days, how to celebrate a tiny win. People came in angry, tired, skeptical. They left with lists and a sense that they could try one thing without being heroic about it. One student was a mother who'd been up nights with a sick child. She told the room she had no time for routines. He gave her a different kind of plan. 15 seconds of breathing when she felt the panic. 1 line in the phone notes before bed. 2 minutes of movement while the kettle boiled. She tried it and called him a week later. Her voice was calmer. I did not fix everything, she said, but I stopped breaking as easily. That phrase, stop breaking, became a quiet chorus in the room. He built a simple protocol he called Map and Grind. Map meant name the pain, where it hit, and when it spiked. Grind meant pick one tiny thing to do every day for 2 weeks and measure. No heroics. No all or nothing, just relentless. Intelligent return. He watched people change not by grand gestures, but by small, predictable actions. A construction worker fixed his back by adding mobility into his lunch break. A teacher calmed classroom chaos by starting class with 2 minutes of quiet breathing. Scale became possible because practices were bite-sized. The soldier's reputation spread. Reporters wanted bravado, medals, and rousing speeches. He refused the spotlight. He would tell them a single line and point to the notebooks on his table. Repair, then return. The cameras liked drama. He liked instruction manuals. More useful, he thought. Sometimes he failed. Sometimes his own ledger showed long streaks of mispractice. He did not pretend otherwise. He wrote the failure down, read the entries, adjust it. He modeled the repair script out loud. Name it. Fix one small thing. Try again. People found honesty more useful than myth. Years later, at a reunion, a young recruit stood and asked what he thought courage meant now. He looked out at faces lined with weather and youth and said, "Courage is showing up to the small work every day. It's choosing the repair over the story of suffering." The room exhaled. They had seen heroes fall. They had seen men mend. This felt real. His child learned to not laces by his patient hands. In the kitchen, he showed patience, not sermons. When nightmares returned sometimes, he had a protocol: breathe, name the image, talk it out, do one small habit that anchored him: tea, journal, walk. The protocol was not magic. It was daily scaffolding. The soldier did not want statues, he wanted systems. He built a curriculum for new veterans and civilians. Log pain for 7 days, pick one micro habit, run the test, share results publicly. Reward small wins. The program spread not because people loved discipline, but because it returned people to life with dignity. His final lesson was a sentence he repeated in classrooms and at kitchen tables: fix something tiny today so the next day asks less of you. It sounds humble because it is. The world's storms will still come. You will still be hit. What changes is your relationship to the hits. You learn to read them, to repair around them, and to return. The soldier aged like all of us, his hands marked by scars, his gait slightly slower. But his ledger kept telling the story of progress: tighter sleep, fewer nightmares, steady relationships. A team that taught repair to their children. People asked him once why he never stopped teaching. He answered simply, "Because someone taught me how to stand up, I owe them the same." If you take one thing from his life, let it be practical. Start with a single question tonight: what is one tiny thing I can do tomorrow that will make the next day easier? Write it down. Do it. Keep a note. At the end of the week, look back. Adjust. Repeat. You don't have to be a soldier to fight like one. You don't need medals. You need practice. You need honest logs, small habits, and the stubborn refusal to stay broken. Stand, breathe, fix one small thing, return tomorrow. Over months and years, the small returns stack into a life that refuses to break. That is how strength endures. That is how courage looks when it is real.